So we just learned that the Fed lowered interest rates by 0.25%. Not a huge, but perhaps just one of a few expected before the end of the year. Joining us to help break down what that means for your bottom line is Julie Morgan, president of the Century Foundation. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so they lowered it 0.25%. So where does that leave our interest rate today?
Well, I think we need to put this in the larger context of a broader housing affordability crisis. Housing is really, really expensive for families right now, whether they're trying to buy a home or rent, right? About 3 out of 4 people say that it's unaffordable for them to buy the median priced home. So the Federal Reserve did drop interest rates. Mortgage lenders had already sort of priced that drop into the rates that they were charging to borrowers. And so, that's provided kind of a modest reprieve for people who can afford the underlying home prices.
Right.
But it's not nearly enough to make it affordable to buy a home in the United States right now.
No, it's true. So what is the interest rate right now?
In your area, the interest rates are just above 6% right now.
Right, just above 6%. Will we ever get that down to 2% again?
So I don't think we'll see those rates again. I'm hopeful, and the indications from the Fed suggest that we're going to see the rates get a little bit lower. And I think that's really good news for consumers because right now, a drop of 0.25%, particularly for people who purchase those higher interest rate homes in the last few years, it's not really enough to offset the pretty high closing costs that they'd have to pay to refinance their mortgage.
Right.
So I'm hopeful that we'll see them get lower, but I don't think we'll get back to 3% anytime soon.
I mean, we've just been waiting for this since last December. So what was the rationale that they finally lowered interest rates? And what are we looking at potentially as we embark on another interest rate drop before the end of the year? What has to happen for that to occur?
What we're hearing from the Federal Reserve is that the thing that's driving those drops in interest rates is about the labor market. So we're seeing higher rates of unemployment than what they'd like to see, and they're dropping interest rates as a result. And I think that's really important to understand for consumers because when those interest rates went down, there were warnings that the Federal Reserve thinks that costs are going to continue to rise. So we're in this situation where costs for anything from groceries to cars to healthcare are up. Unemployment is high, so it's not a great economic situation for consumers, and so those dropping interest rates aren't really kind of the gift that we would like to see them as.
Well, it's true. And inflation, we're trying to get it back down to 2% as well. We saw everything just rise and rise and rise over the last several years. It has come down a little bit. But how does inflation work into all of this? And can we get to 2%?
I mean, the way I really think about this is that the Federal Reserve is really an important tool that we have to control our economy and to control costs for families, but it's really not the only one. And right now, the president hasn't really gotten in the game to help bring down costs for working families in this country. So, as much as the Federal Reserve can be a powerful tool, the president is sitting on a number of other powerful tools that could actually help decrease inflation and bring down costs for families. And we're actually seeing him exercise tools in the opposite direction, which is pretty worrisome.
And before we go, tell us a little bit about the Century Foundation, what your mission is and what you do there.
Sure, we're a nonpartisan think tank that tries to generate analysis and ideas that would help improve families' lives. So this is a really critical time for an organization like ours, especially with the massive increase in cost of living that we're seeing. So we're hard at work trying to find solutions that would drive down costs for families, make it a little bit more equitable and easy for people to thrive in America.
Julie Morgan of the Century Foundation, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll be back after this.